Okay, I've got another video I can post. I'm in the middle of working on a front motor mount, and I've just taken basically some 1/2 inch scrap steel that I had that was just big enough to cut a motor mount. And anytime you can do that, you can save a little bit of money instead of cutting it off a fresh stock. So what I've done is I've used a template that I have and drew it on here just to get an idea of where the hole placement should be, because later on I'm going to machine this edge, and this edge, and then use a hole saw actually to cut this out, because it works really good and it's really fast. What I did back in 4/7/2011 was I made this little, what I call rear motor mount fixture, and I stamped it in there so I would always know what it was. So you can see where the hole saw mark is, where I've done a bunch of them, and it moves around. It depends on what type of bike you're building and if you have any motor offset or anything like that. So, or how close this is to the backbone, because this hole is going to be, well, seat post, but in my case it's usually the backbone turns in the seat post. So what I do is first I start out with my little template, how I want the motor mount to look. And realistically, the only important figures are going to be these two holes and this one. The rest of the motor mount can look however you want. You just have to make sure that the edge here is close to this hole. I don't know the exact distance, but you can't have it sticking out too far or it hits the motor. So you can take a measurement off your motor and see where the casing to the hole is and make sure that you clear that, because some, depending on what motor you're using, some have a little bit more clearance. But generally the 80 cubic inch Harley, RevTechs and all that are generally the same. And I'll show you how I get this machined real quick. So what I do with this template is I have 2 holes drilled that I can bolt this to, and then I clamp this whole fixture in the mill, and I don't have to use a bunch of stuff. Okay, so these holes are 3.5 inches apart. Okay, so we'll just, and this is just aluminum that's threaded to hold this, and it's square. And I'll go ahead, since I won't be talking too much during the actual machining, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a hole saw. I'm going to push this thing as far as I can this way, so I know that these bolts top out in the hole. Now I'm going to tighten these up. I'm going to use a hole saw here to cut my seat post notch out, and then I'm going to use a milling bit to run across this edge until it basically hits these, starts turning these washers a little bit. And then, so that'll be square. And the way I set this little jig up, I can take one bolt off and loosen one bolt, and I can spin it around here like this and reinsert, after I line it up, reinsert that, and I could now machine across this way to get a nice flat area on the edge. And I can put it here in this hole and do this edge here. So I can do all 3 edges and have this, and it'll be done, and it'll be identical each time. So I'll show some of the operation and how it fits in the jig. Okay, hopefully that's in focus. My eyesight ain't that great. Alright, so I've got the bit set. This is locked down. This is locked in here. Underneath this is a block that keeps this plate about, it's only halfway in the vise. So it keeps it up off the vise so I don't cut into the vise. I will cut into the aluminum a little bit, but I usually cut into the aluminum in the same place. So, and I got a little, I don't have a quencher on this mill, so I have to use this to keep it, although it's a roughing bit, so I can cut deep and I'll be honest, that bit lasts. This one's on its last leg, but they last a pretty long time. And then I'll just chase it on a Rockwell sander, big belt sander. Make it look like glass. I don't use much lubricant for something like this, just enough. All right. And the ends I'll cut off with a bandsaw, and just on the Rockwell sander, I'll just do a straight cut here, and then I'll round it off. Really simple and quick doing it that way. You could put this on a rotary table and do it, but you're adding, like, for me to take this table, this vise off, and put my rotary table on, I mean, that's half an hour to an hour job, because that thing weighs like 100 pounds. All right, so let me flip this, and we'll see the other cut. Okay, hopefully I have enough batter to get all this. I'm just going to run this cut, and then after I make this cut, the last cut I won't show, just because it's basically the same thing. And then I'll try and shoot a little video of what it looks like fitting into the jig after I do the hole saw. Which the hole saw, you just turn the speed down on the mill or drill press, and just go slow and keep it oiled, and it goes right on through it like butter. Sorry for the lack of videos also, because we moved, and basically my big shop turned into a really small shop. Some would call it a garage. And I haven't really found a place around where we moved to in Texas. We were in Virginia, and we decided to move to Texas, and it's pretty cool. All right, that's close enough to the edge to give me a good surface to clean. All right, and then we have one more side, and then we'll do the hole saw. All right, one last thing. I went ahead, just to keep from having to use the milling bit, I'm going to take this and just do kind of a contoured cut using the front and back feed. To make it easy to sand the edges, so that'll be done. And the other thing I want to point out is, if you make one of these little jig fixtures, make it out of aluminum, because you want to wipe this off before you move the motor mount around, because you don't want to trap any metal bits between the aluminum or the plate and the motor mount, because when you tighten it up, aluminum is forgiving, so if something gets under there, you'll press it into the aluminum, not the motor mount. But if you make this out of steel, and this is steel, and you get a piece of metal between the two steels and you clamp it down, tighten these bolts up, you're going to mar up your motor mount, and then you really can't take any surface off of the motor mount. Because if you have a 1/2 inch and you use cold rolled, you got to leave it at 1/2 inch. You can't really face it off unless you change the measurements on your jig. If you want to take a thousandths or two off of the top, you have to do it on your jig also, or do it on the front motor mount, rear motor mount, trans mount, and fifth trans mount, and then make sure everything stays the same distance. But that's the big thing. Do it out of aluminum. That way, if you do get something trapped under there, it mars the aluminum. It won't mar the steel. It'll mar the aluminum. The steel just press it down in there, and you won't have any imperfections on here. And when you clean it before you weld it, you just use Scotch-Brite, and you just want to take off, the color basically. You don't want to cut into the steel. All right, let's hole saw. Okay. It doesn't sound pretty in the beginning, but if you don't have CNC, it works really good. All right. Now, there's the piece, and there's the notch. Now, I'm going to leave the table set the way it is. I did a shallow notch, real shallow notch, so I can check it. And then I can get a better idea of the exact placement of the notch, because when I put these holes in, I was using a paper template, because this is an oddball frame. So, let me do that, but that's what it looks like when you hole saw it, and you get a perfect, beautiful notch. I'll put the camera on the jig, finish the notch up, and we'll show it fitting. All right, there's the piece. See, I can't really get it in the focus range. So I hit it with a Scotch-Brite back and forth, and then a rotary Scotch-Brite wheel. Sanded this on the sander, and you can see, if I can get it in the, at some point it'll be in focus. You can see how smooth it is. We're going to put this in the jig now and install it. So there you go. And there it is installed. Nothing special about it, just welded in. And other than that, the way I have it set up is the front motor mount and rear motor mount run a spacer under it. For whatever reason, when these were made, they were just a little bit too short. I forgot the exact measurement because it's been like 8-9 years ago. But to match the trans, you have to space up the front and back motor mount with these spacers when we install them. Not a big deal, but that's what it looks like installed. A little discolored from the welding. But I'll try and get some more videos up as soon as I can. Everyone take care.